Namaskar, dear learners. I, Dr. Renu Tomar, welcome you to CEC Live Lectures. Friends, we have been discussing about organizational behavior in school management. In this topic, this is part 10 of the series of lectures on this same topic. Friends, till now, we have discussed that how organization behavior is of relevance as far as the school management is concerned, and why educational administrator, particularly who is working in a school, should be aware of it, should be working for it, and should be able to enhance the culture in that organization. The last topic which we were discussing in it, we were talking about the scope of organization behavior in school. In that, we have talked about how the culture impacts the organization behavior. In that, let us talk about the different topics which are covered in the culture as far as the organization behavior is concerned. One is diversity. What does diversity mean? Diversity means that the people who are coming to an organization are coming from the diverse background, diverse cultural background, diverse academic background also, and diverse economic background. So, that impact of diversity may have the positive impact in the working of the organization, and it may have negative impact on the working of an organization if it is not controlled appropriately. We shall be discussing about in great detail. First of all, let us try to understand that when there is diversity in any situation, then how different people are going to react to that diversity. That means and if the organization in which everybody is contributing, and there is growth of individual employee in that organization as well as for the business as a whole, by exposing them to new ideas and perspective. In that organization where all the individuals are contributing to their best as far as their competency is concerned, in that organization, how that learning environment has to be brought, how those individuals have to be motivated to learn how to handle the diversity. Diversity owing to two things. One, diversity owing to the fact that each individual is diverse. Secondly, the organization is also working in a dynamic environment, and that dynamic environment is making it focus in to make it diverse. So, diversity is very important as far as learning is concerned. Then, if we try to understand impact of diversity, we should understand that there would be experience and knowledge which will be coming, because if the people are coming from a different background, then that means people are also bringing along those different experiences and knowledge. So, as an educational leader, as an educational manager, as an administrator, one should be knowing how to utilize those unique sets of skills and strength into the organization's progress, which is being brought by the individuals. The organization also needs, because it is working in a global world. So, when the globalization is there, which is integral part of any organization, so it is very important that every individual understand that the international skills are also important. That means, one thing, the person is bringing along the diversity, knowledge, and diverse experiences. Secondly, individuals should be prepared to learn from the diversity of the environment in which that organization is functioning. So, this is very much important for an educational leader to control and to utilize to one's benefits, that is organization's benefits. International skill has to be there, international skill has to be introduced. They have to improve as far as the global market is concerned. Then let us talk about impact of diversity. When there is diversity in an organization, then there would be naturally if there is some kind of a diversity in the organization, in the culture of an organization, then naturally the people would be looking forward to work. Why? Because if there is an element of diversity in that organization, then there will be place for almost everyone in that organization. Secondly, diversity adds meaning, interest to the work at hand, and that improves the reputation of the organization. And when the reputation of the organization improves, then naturally the people wants to join it. But it can also work as a discriminating factor, and it's basically the administrator who has to decide that whether he has to utilize the diversity as to enhance the reputation of the organization, or simply let it be discriminating factor. Discriminating factor will come if the leader is prejudiced, stereotyped, or misinformed. There are serious consequences for the fact that there is discrimination in the organization itself. Due to impact of diversity, there will be poor interaction, and the workers, the employees who are working over there, they would also feel, due to the fact that there is discrimination in the organization, they will also feel not very comfortable in that organization. There will be poor interaction, there will be lack of understanding amongst the individuals, and there will be tons of issues which will affect the employees and their interaction, and the individuals will also not feel very comfortable. So naturally that is going to affect the working of the people in that organization. Another important aspect is authority and training. It is important that the people are provided some amount of authority, and to deal with the diversity they are also provided training, because training forces them to accept the unnecessary changes. When we talk about the diversity, the impact of diversity, is very much important that we practice inclusion. Inclusion involves looking at the individual needs, trying to make sure that those needs are met, supported, and respected. This often means that the organization will need to make sure that they are offering right sources for their staffers and taking into account their background and capabilities. As far as education is concerned, it has been seen that the people are unfamiliar with the culture of their peers. So that familiarity has to be introduced. For that, the people are to be educated. They have to be familiarized with the culture of their peers, as well as if there are certain questions or queries that has to be answered by each one of them, so that the diversity in the workplace increases the people's involvement in that organization. This can only happen if there are no misunderstandings, if the people are on the same page, people are respecting each other. So as to deal with the diversity, because this is also one of an important component, and it's that is why it forms a scope for organization behavior in school. To deal with that, we need good communication system. What does good communication system means? Good communication system means that there will be the people should be informed of whatever is happening, and not just about the work but about each other also. In fact, communication has been seen as a key of knowledge and understanding as far as the staff is concerned, the people are concerned. So along with the diversity, it is very important that educational administrator keep control of the fact that this diversity doesn't affect the individuals. So variety of different backgrounds which is coming together due to students or due to the teachers or due to the staff which is coming, that should be of added advantage to the organization, as well as the students who are there and the teachers who are working over there and the staff who is working at the back end. So that can only be done if there is proper channel of communication, and apart from the proper channel of communication, it is very important that the people are at the same page and they appreciate each other, they respect each other, and they also know how to deal with the changes. So that brings us to another scope of organization behavior, which is organizational change. Organizational change, dear friends, it's something which is not just important but also would come. So, you cannot stop the change to come, because we cannot stop the change to come. So, it becomes duty of every educational administrator to be prepared for the change and utilize that change for the progress of the organization. For that, we need the educational administrator to be a leader, because only leader will be able to visualize that how that change is going to affect the organization structure or strategies, policies or procedures, technology or culture. Then this change have to be planned years in advance, and it has to be forced, it may be forced upon the organization because of the shift of the environment. So, the individuals in the organization, that is the teachers, all the stakeholders, the teachers, the students, have to be prepared for organizational change. For example, if we talk about the organizational change, one change which has been forced upon on all the educational organization, on all the schools, on all the colleges, is due to the COVID. It has been observed that due to the COVID, all the organizations needed to look after the fact that how the education should not stop, but they cannot call their students to the school or the colleges. So, as to have the education continuing, they had to adapt as far as the COVID scenario was concerned, or educating through online, providing educational models, providing more of homework, assessment has also changed. So, those kind of changes which have been accepted by the organization, educational organization, that is due to the fact that there has been sudden shift in the environment and a change has been forced upon by the nature on every organization. As to deal with it, all the organizations have changed, and in that also, as we know, that few organizations have dealt with that change in a better manner than the others. Why? Because the leadership or the people in that organization were more aware of the procedures, technology, and they knew how to utilize the technology. They were able to introduce the technological culture well, and accordingly have the strategies so that the education is not education doesn't suffer as far as the students are concerned, while others have not been able to adapt to the technological change, and the result has been that there has been less of learning. So, organizational change is there to come. Now, the most important thing is that as an educational leader, one should know how to deal with that particular change. Now, let us talk about workforce demographics, and when we talk about workforce demographic, it is very much important that the employees who are unhappy with their current work situation, they would like to quit the job or go for another job. So, it is very much important that we are able to keep the happiness in the organization, we are able to keep our employees satisfied, so that there is no loss of valuable knowledge or expertise on the part of the organization. So, therefore, organization has to devise the strategies to retain their employees and plan for their personal benefits also. So, it has to be both ways, that means win-win situation for the organization as well as the individual, and that can only be possible if the leadership, the educational administrator is looking into it, and he or she is very much aware of the fact that how to make people work and perform in that organization. Another important aspect which is there is technology. Sometimes change, as we said, is due to the fact that due to the sudden fact in the environment, and the result is that technology has to be taken into consideration, but it is also a fact that technology is changing very rapidly, and all of us have to tune into that technology as an organization, as an individuals also. So, when we talk about management of change, we have to understand that what brings change, the technology change, the sudden changes will also bring the change, and then the demographic changes which happens in the organization, in the workforce, that is the unhappiness due to which the people chooses to retire, or the old age people who are retiring. So, these are the changes which are going to come, which are going to be there in any organization. So, those changes have to be controlled. Another reason for the changes is globalization. because of the globalization, we have to provide the services also of such a manner that the individual who is getting the service, because education is nothing but a service, and this service has to be given in such a manner that the students who is studying with you in the organization, the student is able to perform in the global world to one's best, and that would be only possible if the organization is aware of what is going on in the global world, and they are able to deliver the same kind of services which is being delivered in the world. So, international parameters have to be kept in mind, the demographic dynamic has to be kept in mind, the happiness of the employees have to be kept in mind, then the organizational changes which are coming due to the environmental changes, that have to be kept in mind, and technological changes which are there and would be coming at a very rapid pace, that also need to be kept in mind, and accordingly the organization has to be structured, changed and designed. So, these are very important, that when we talk about management of change, we have changes in the organization which should be matching the changes in the world around him, as well as the changes in the sector in which it is working. When we talk about management of change, then naturally the organizational growth comes. Either there will be growth or there will be negativity in the organization. Growth will be there if there is proper management of change, and we have to understand that when we talk about changes, then there would be resistance to changes also amongst the employee. How that has to be handled, that is also one important component which every leader should be knowing. Apart from that, the leader should be able to control the performance of the individual, because whenever the change would come, there would be organizational growth from the perspective of the fact that it will need to enhance and improve as well as change in its working. Then that may affect the working of the people, and that may leads to poor performance. So, for that the people have to be made aware, and their performance, to check the performance, it is very much important that they have to be made prepared for the kind of a change, so that they can contribute to the organizational growth, and they also made to be understand that the changes which are coming in the organization, they are also important from their own perspective. We should also know that the individuals generally resist to the change. Why do they resist to the change? The reason is that most of the people don't have that kind of a dynamism, and they want to work and live in their comfort areas. Moreover, while working in those comfort areas, they also gather some kind of a power in those areas, and they want to remain in that they feel that they are being challenged if they are being asked to change. So, there is resistance to change. How that resistance to change has to be handled, this is very important component as far as educational administrator is concerned. To deal with that, it is very much important that nobody should be allowed to become powerful in one's own particular area or particular domain, and people should people should be kept on being changed from one area to another, from one job to another, so that they don't feel bored, or they don't have that comfort level in their personality. They don't have that comfort level ki we would like to work in this job only because we are comfortable. So, to deal with the resistance of change, it is very much important that we should have such policies that the people should not be allowed to stay in one kind of a job for longer duration. Then the poor performance has to be controlled through motivation, through providing appropriate inputs, and linking the job with the performance expectations. Then we should understand that when the people don't want change, usually the reason for that is that they are habitual of working in that particular organization, in that particular work. So, just to give an example, generally we who are driving, we will see that we drive in some particular way, and if we are asked to drive in some other way, then we will feel uncomfortable, we will feel angry, or we will not like to drive at all, or we may like to quit. So these are the things which are usually result of the fact that if there is some kind of a changes which are being enforced or forced upon individuals. So it is very much important that people don't become passive and people are not allowed to stay in one kind of work for very longer duration, one thing. Secondly, people should be motivated to accept and acknowledge the change. Another important component which is known for the fact that why people resist change, that is personality. Some people are more resistant to change than others. Researchers have shown that the people who have positive self-concepts are better at coping with change, probably because those who have high self-esteem may feel that whatever the changes are, they are likely to adjust to it well and successful in the new system. Then there is feeling of uncertainty. There is feeling of uncertainty because of the fact that the people are afraid that if they quit working in the manner in which they have been working for years and they start working in the different kind of a manner, there is possibility of failure. So they have to be motivated that the failure doesn't count. What counts is that whether they are able to accept, acknowledge the change, and whether they are able to react in a positive direction as far as the changes are concerned. Another important reason why the people are not very comfortable in the organization, or why they are not able to perform to their abilities, and which is also very much part of the scope of organization behavior, is conflict and stress. Why do we have conflicts in the organization? Generally, conflict exists because of either personality variable, they are psychological or physiological. That means there would be environmental factors as well as there will be certain psychological factors. There are important goals of one's ability to cope. So it's so important that as an educational administrator, we keep those psychological factors in control. We has to keep those psychological factors in control. It's very much important that we know what kind of personalities we have working with and what can cause them stress. So that level of stress shouldn't be allowed to reach the height where the individual is not able to perform. So it's very much important that as an educational leader, we are able to provide appropriate amount of stress to every individual, which make him perform in the best possible manner. Another important aspect is that there are conflicts in the organization, and the conflicts is generally due to the environment or the individuals who are working in the environment. Whenever there are certain deviation from the normal performance, then there is going to be stress. This is a well known fact. So the deviation has to be, one, it has to be of a lower tendency. Second, it has to be very slow. Stress has to be there, but of not that level that it affects the individual in negative manner. Then the conflict has to be there, because conflict always provide the dynamism to the individual, but the level of conflicts has to be controlled by the leader, and this is responsibility of the leader to maintain the conflict as well as control the conflict, so that the health of the individuals and performance of the individuals is not impacted. It is generally seen that the conflict and stress leads to higher absenteeism as well as poor employee turnover. And it has also been seen that the stress leads to safety problems also, because generally if the people are handling, they are driving and they are in the stress, then there is very much possible that there might be accidents and there might be some kind of a problem to the individual. So it's very much important that we keep the stress at the lower level. Another important thing is that whenever there is conflict and stress, that makes employee nervous and may make him lose the temper also. Generally, if there is conflict and stress, then the employee are non-cooperative and it affect any member of the organization, whether he or she is a worker, manager, old and young, or both. When we talk about dealing with that, there have to be three kind of strategies. One, organizational level strategies, and then the individual level strategies. Agronomics, as we know, is to be utilized for reducing stress at the workplace. Agronomic is a technique used to reduce discomfort. It's a combination of industrial engineering, physiological and psychological need of the individual at the workplace. So, providing comfortable chair, providing good washroom, providing the time for their home, as well as providing the proper communication procedures, then their informal interactions amongst the employee, studying the behavior of the employee, enabling the professional to examine and observe the work environment, anticipate changes. These are the most important strategies which are utilized as to deal with the stress or the conflict in the organization. We should also be knowing that if there are stressor, then the stressor have to be dealt with in the organization through relaxation techniques, through physical fitness programs, through stress education, group discussion, or family counseling also. So, these things form important part of the organization, and most important thing when we talk about stress and conflict is due to the fact that there is lack of time management, there is lack of control in the organization. External control is more important than the internal control, because every individual has to be controlled from the outside in such a manner that the individual doesn't feel controlled, and the individual has to be provided scope for continuous development. If the person is able to feel that he or she is developing and there is horizontal and vertical communication working and there is continuous feedback in the organization, then naturally the employee will be able to work in a better manner. We also need to understand that if we want to provide the better services, then it is very much important that we take into consideration the work, interest and coalition. So, these are the things which have to be taken into consideration. Another important part which is very much important in the organization is power and politics. In group behavior, there is power and politics, there is coercive power, remunerative power and normative power. Coercive power, which is forced from the outside, just like Hitler. Remunerative power, that is the money power, which is through the payment to be made to the individuals, and normative power is which is due to the fact that there is power in those policies or in their working itself. Then there are expertise power and opportunity power, as well as individual characteristics power as well. When we talk about power, it is a concept which is rooted in the Greek mythology as well as the Greek books. So, it is something which is there since the man has come into being. So, the power and the politics and the group behavior will be there. So, as a educational leader, we should be able to understand what organization politics is, how that has to be utilized, how the members are being controlled by the power and politics, and how the politics should be controlled by the leader, so that the people are able to perform to their best manner. So, friends, at this note, I, Dr. Renu Tomar, is signing off as to join you with a new topic in my next lecture. Namaskar, Jai Hind, take care and be safe.